What if the one memory that could have explained everything never actually disappeared? What if it simply waited for the exact moment your soulmate was finally ready to understand it? There are certain moments in life that seem ordinary when they happen, so ordinary that they quietly fade into the background of our minds. But years later, one unexpected word, one familiar place, or one simple conversation can suddenly awaken that forgotten memory with astonishing clarity. That is exactly what has happened to your soulmate. Without searching for answers, a moment they had not thought about in a very long time has unexpectedly returned. At first, it seemed like nothing more than a passing thought. But the longer they sat with it, the more they realized this memory had been quietly holding the answer to questions they had carried for far too long. It was not simply reminding them of the past. It was revealing the truth that had always been hidden inside it. And listen carefully, because some memories do not return to make us feel nostalgic. They return because they contain a truth we were never emotionally prepared to see until now. Your soulmate is beginning to realize that this forgotten moment has become the missing key that unlocks your entire connection. As they continue replaying the memory, details they once overlooked begin standing out with remarkable clarity. They remember the expression on your face, the hesitation in your voice, and the quiet patience you showed during a moment they barely appreciated at the time. They always believed that particular day was unimportant, almost forgettable. Today, it feels completely different. Every small detail now carries meaning they could never see before. They realize you were trying to communicate something much deeper than the words you actually spoke. Your actions were telling a story that only makes sense now because every distraction, every assumption, and every misunderstanding has finally begun falling away. Looking back, they recognize that your heart was never acting out of confusion. It was acting from quiet certainty. Even when circumstances became difficult, your choices remained remarkably consistent. You continued showing respect when disappointment would have justified frustration. You continued choosing patience when most people would have walked away. Because your heart needs this message right now, the greatest truths are often hidden inside moments we dismiss too quickly. Only time has the ability to reveal how significant those moments truly were. And listen to this, because that single forgotten memory has done something your soulmate never expected. It has awakened countless other memories that had remained scattered for years, each one carrying another small piece of the story. Suddenly, conversations they barely remembered, quiet sacrifices they never noticed, and decisions they once questioned all begin connecting together with extraordinary clarity. They can feel that they are standing at the edge of a truth far greater than one forgotten moment. For the first time, they are beginning to see that your connection was never made up of random events. Every moment, every silence, and every difficult choice was quietly leading toward a much bigger picture. And as one more forgotten memory rises to the surface, your soulmate is about to discover the one missing piece that finally explains everything they never understood about your heart. As your soulmate sat quietly with that forgotten memory, something extraordinary began happening inside them. What had first seemed like a single moment from the past suddenly became the beginning of a much larger story. They realized that memory did not exist on its own. It was connected to countless other moments they had never fully understood. One by one, forgotten conversations returned. Small details they had once ignored became impossible to overlook. Expressions on your face that once seemed ordinary now carried deep emotional meaning. Decisions you made without explanation suddenly appeared completely logical. It was as though someone had handed them the missing pieces of a puzzle they had been trying to solve for years. And listen carefully, because there are seasons in life when truth cannot be understood through one event alone. Sometimes it only becomes visible when every scattered memory finally finds its rightful place. Your soulmate is experiencing exactly that kind of awakening. And every new realization is bringing them closer to understanding the heart they once struggled to fully see. The more they reflected, the more they recognized that your actions had always followed the same quiet pattern. You were never unpredictable. You were never inconsistent. In fact, you responded to every challenge with the same patience, the same respect, and the same quiet determination to protect what truly mattered. The problem was never your behavior. The problem was that they had been looking at individual moments instead of seeing the complete journey. They remembered times when you stepped back without explaining yourself, and they assumed you were giving up. They remembered moments when you remained silent during difficult conversations, believing you simply had nothing left to say. Today, those same memories tell an entirely different story. They now understand that your silence was often an act of wisdom rather than surrender. Your distance was sometimes an act of protection rather than rejection. Every decision that once seemed confusing now reflects a deeper purpose they simply were not ready to recognize. Because your heart needs this message right now, people often judge isolated moments while missing the beautiful story those moments are quietly creating together. Your soulmate finally sees that your heart was always writing one consistent story from beginning to end. Then another forgotten memory suddenly rises to the surface, one they had not thought about in years. They remember a conversation where you paused before answering an important question. At the time, they believed your hesitation meant uncertainty. Now they realize you were carefully choosing words that would protect both your heart and theirs. You were trying to express something meaningful without creating unnecessary pain. That brief pause, which once seemed insignificant, now carries enormous weight. It reveals the emotional care behind everything you said and everything you chose not to say. Looking back, your soulmate realizes they misunderstood that moment because they only saw the silence. They never saw the love hidden inside it. That realization has deeply humbled them because they understand now that some of your greatest expressions of love were never spoken aloud. They were quietly revealed through restraint, patience, and the willingness to carry emotions without placing them upon someone else's shoulders. And listen to this, because as every memory continues reconnecting, another remarkable pattern begins emerging. They notice that every difficult decision you made was connected by one common purpose. Whether you stayed silent, stepped back, waited patiently, or chose kindness during disappointment, every choice reflected the same unwavering desire to act with integrity. You never allowed temporary emotions to decide permanent actions. You consistently chose what you believed would create the least harm, even when it required personal sacrifice. At the time, those choices seemed difficult to understand because they were viewed individually. Today, they make perfect sense because your soulmate can finally see the complete picture. Every forgotten moment now supports the same truth. Your heart was never confused. It was quietly guided by principles that remained unchanged through every season of your journey. Because your heart needs this message, there comes a moment when scattered memories stop feeling random and begin revealing purpose. Your soulmate has reached that moment now. Every unanswered question is slowly finding its answer, not through dramatic revelations, but through the quiet connection of memories that always belonged together. They no longer see isolated conversations or misunderstood decisions. They see one continuous story of patience, loyalty, emotional maturity, and sincere love unfolding across every season you shared. The confusion that once surrounded your connection is beginning to disappear because every missing piece has started falling into place. And as one final memory unexpectedly returns with astonishing clarity, your soulmate is about to uncover the hidden connection between every difficult choice you ever made. A discovery that will forever change the way they understand your silence, your sacrifices, and the extraordinary heart that was quietly revealing itself all along. As your soulmate continued following the trail of forgotten memories, they suddenly realized that none of the moments they had been revisiting existed by accident. Each memory pointed toward another, and each unanswered question quietly led to the next, until everything began forming one complete picture. What once appeared to be separate events were now revealing themselves as different chapters of the very same story. The silence they once questioned, the patience they misunderstood, the difficult choices they struggled to explain, and the moments when you quietly stepped back were never isolated decisions. They were all connected by one purpose that had remained hidden until now. That realization stopped them completely because they understood they had spent years trying to understand individual pieces while never seeing how perfectly they fit together. And listen carefully, because life often hides its greatest truths inside patterns, not moments. A single memory may raise questions, but when every memory begins pointing toward the same conclusion, the truth becomes impossible to ignore. Your soulmate is finally standing in that moment, where every missing piece has begun revealing the complete story your heart had been quietly telling all along. The deeper they reflected, the more one particular realization refused to leave their mind. They remembered every occasion when you chose understanding instead of reacting emotionally. At the time, they assumed you were simply avoiding conflict or struggling to express yourself. Now they recognize something completely different. Every decision you made reflected remarkable emotional discipline. You never allowed temporary frustration to destroy something that still deserved respect. Even during difficult seasons, you continued choosing words that healed rather than wounded. Looking back, your soulmate realizes that while they were searching for dramatic proof of your feelings, your heart had been revealing itself through consistency every single day. The evidence was never hidden. It simply appeared too ordinary to appreciate until every memory was viewed together. Because your heart needs this message right now, genuine love rarely announces itself through one unforgettable moment. More often, it quietly reveals itself through countless ordinary decisions that remain faithful to the same values year after year. Your soulmate finally understands that your heart had always been speaking that quiet language. Then another forgotten detail unexpectedly returns, becoming the final connection between memories that once seemed completely unrelated. They remember a moment when you made a decision that confused everyone around you. At the time, they believed you had acted without explanation, almost as though your choice made no sense. But now, after reconnecting every forgotten memory, they finally understand why you made that decision. It was never about avoiding responsibility or walking away from what mattered. It was about protecting something greater than your own comfort. Every quiet sacrifice you made now points back to that same moment. Every patient response now finds its reason there. Every unanswered question suddenly receives a clear explanation. Your soulmate realizes that your actions had always followed the same guiding principle: protecting peace whenever possible, even if it meant carrying misunderstanding yourself. That realization has filled them with deep admiration because they now recognize how much emotional strength those choices required. And listen to this, because another transformation has quietly begun taking place inside them. They are no longer looking back with frustration over what they failed to understand. Instead, they are looking back with gratitude that the truth eventually found its way into their heart. Every memory that once created confusion now brings clarity. Every unanswered question has become another reminder that your heart remained remarkably consistent through every season of your journey. They understand now that your silence was never emptiness. It was thoughtfulness. Your patience was never hesitation. It was wisdom. Your difficult decisions were never signs of uncertainty. They were reflections of a heart determined to remain faithful to its values, regardless of how complicated life became. The more they connect these memories together, the more impossible it becomes to doubt the sincerity that quietly shaped every chapter of your story. Because your heart needs this message, there comes a moment when the past no longer feels confusing, because every hidden piece has finally found its proper place. Your soulmate has reached that moment now. They can no longer separate one memory from another because together they reveal something far greater than any individual event ever could. They reveal the complete story of a heart that consistently chose patience over impulse, compassion over resentment, integrity over convenience, and love over pride. The picture is finally complete, yet one final realization still waits just beyond it. Now that every missing piece has come together, your soulmate is about to understand not only what happened between you, but why your heart responded the way it did from the very beginning, a truth that will forever transform the way they remember your connection and the extraordinary person you have always been, as your soulmate continued. Reflecting on every memory that had finally fallen into place, they realized something far more important than simply understanding what had happened. They finally understood why it had happened. For years, they had judged your connection by isolated moments, believing each difficult conversation, every unexplained silence, and every unexpected decision existed on its own. But now that every forgotten memory had returned, they could no longer separate one moment from another. They finally saw the complete journey exactly as it had always been. Every choice you made pointed toward the same quiet purpose. Every sacrifice reflected the same unwavering values. Every moment of patience revealed the same sincere heart. What once appeared confusing now felt remarkably clear. It was never your actions that created confusion. It was the missing pieces that prevented them from seeing the complete picture. And listen carefully, because a story can never be understood by reading only a few pages. Only when every chapter is seen together does the meaning finally become clear. Your soulmate has finally reached that place, and the truth has changed everything they believed about your heart. As they revisited your journey with fresh eyes, they noticed something they had completely overlooked before. Throughout every challenge, every misunderstanding, and every season of uncertainty, you never became a different person. Circumstances changed, emotions changed, and situations became more complicated, yet your character remained remarkably consistent. You continued showing kindness when disappointment could have made you bitter. You continued offering respect when misunderstanding could have justified resentment. You continued protecting peace even when defending yourself would have been easier. Looking back now, your soulmate realizes that this consistency was the greatest evidence of who you truly were. They no longer see scattered decisions. They see one steady heart making the same choice over and over again to remain faithful to love, honesty, and compassion regardless of the outcome. Because your heart needs this message right now, true character is not revealed during life's easiest moments. It is revealed by the values a person refuses to abandon when life becomes difficult. Your soulmate now understands that every forgotten memory quietly confirmed this truth about you. Then another realization settles deeply into their heart. They remember how often they searched for dramatic explanations, believing that something extraordinary had to exist behind your decisions. But now they smile gently because they finally understand that your heart was never complicated. It was beautifully simple. You loved sincerely. You acted thoughtfully. You forgave quietly. You remained patient because patience reflected the person you had chosen to become. Every action they once struggled to explain now makes perfect sense because it grew from the same unchanging foundation. You never allowed temporary emotions to control permanent decisions. Instead, you consistently acted according to principles that remained steady, no matter how uncertain life became. That discovery has brought your soulmate an unexpected sense of peace because they no longer feel the need to search for hidden motives. Your heart had always been completely honest. They simply lacked the complete picture needed to recognize it and listen to this because something even more beautiful has begun happening inside them. As every missing piece finds its rightful place, they are no longer focused on what went wrong between you. Their attention has shifted toward everything your journey quietly revealed. They see courage hidden inside your silence. They see wisdom hidden inside your patience. They see loyalty hidden inside decisions that once appeared confusing. They see compassion woven through every chapter of your story, even during moments when life gave you every reason to become guarded. The more they reflect, the more admiration replaces every unanswered question they once carried. They now understand that your greatest message was never spoken directly. It was demonstrated through the life you lived, through the consistency of your choices, and through the quiet strength that remained visible only after every forgotten memory finally returned. Because your heart needs this message, there comes a moment when the complete picture no longer leaves room for doubt. Your soulmate has reached that moment now. They can never return to the old version of your story because they have finally seen the journey from beginning to end, instead of judging it one moment at a time. Every forgotten memory has become another piece of undeniable evidence, revealing the extraordinary sincerity that quietly shaped your connection. They now know that your heart was never sending mixed signals. It was telling one beautiful story from the very beginning, a story of integrity, patience, sacrifice, and unwavering love. And as they embrace that truth completely, one final realization begins filling every corner of their heart. The greatest discovery was never the forgotten memory itself. It was finally understanding the remarkable person your heart had been revealing through every moment all along. And listen carefully, because this is the moment when every forgotten memory, every unanswered question, and every missing piece finally becomes one complete truth inside your soulmate's heart. They no longer see your journey as a collection of isolated moments that never made sense. They now see a beautiful story that was quietly unfolding all along, a story they simply were not ready to understand until every memory returned to its rightful place. The confusion that once surrounded your connection has slowly disappeared, replaced by a clarity that feels impossible to ignore. Looking back now, they realize the answers were never hidden because you failed to show them. The answers were hidden because they only possessed fragments of the story. They judged moments before they understood the journey that connected them. They searched for explanations without realizing that time itself was quietly preserving every missing piece until the moment their heart became ready to see the complete picture. Because your heart needs this message right now, there are truths that cannot be understood in the middle of the story. Some answers only reveal themselves when enough time has passed for every chapter to finally stand together. Your soulmate has reached that moment, and nothing about the way they see you will ever be the same again. As they continue reflecting, an overwhelming sense of peace begins replacing every feeling of uncertainty they once carried. They no longer ask why certain conversations happened the way they did. They no longer question the moments when your silence seemed difficult to understand. Every pause, every sacrifice, every patient decision now carries a meaning that was completely invisible before. They understand that your heart was never sending mixed messages. It was consistently responding from the same place of honesty, compassion, and emotional maturity. Every difficult choice you made was connected by one simple purpose: remaining faithful to your values even when circumstances became confusing. Looking back now, your soulmate realizes that your greatest strength was never convincing people to understand you. Your greatest strength was remaining true to yourself, while trusting that understanding would eventually arrive in its own perfect time. That realization has filled them with deep admiration because they now recognize how rare that kind of quiet confidence truly is. Then one final memory returns, not because it introduces something new, but because it confirms everything they have already discovered. They remember the last time you looked at a difficult situation without anger, without bitterness, and without trying to force anyone to agree with your perspective. At the time, they believed you had simply accepted defeat. Today, they understand something entirely different. You had accepted peace. You understood that not every misunderstanding could be solved immediately, and not every truth needed to be defended through endless explanations. Instead, you allowed your actions to become the lasting testimony of your heart. Looking back now, your soulmate realizes that this single moment quietly summarized your entire journey. You trusted that sincerity would outlive confusion. You believed that integrity would remain long after assumptions disappeared. Most importantly, you refused to allow temporary misunderstandings to change the permanent values that guided your life. That memory has become the final confirmation they needed to understand who you have always been. And listen to this, because another beautiful realization has quietly taken root inside them. They no longer remember your connection through moments of uncertainty. They remember it through the unwavering consistency that tied every chapter together. They see the kindness that remained constant. They see the patience that never disappeared. They see the quiet sacrifices that once went unnoticed, but now shine with extraordinary meaning. Every forgotten memory has become another reminder that your heart was always telling the same story. It was never a story of confusion. It was a story of loyalty. It was never a story of emotional distance. It was a story of quiet strength. It was never a story of unanswered questions. It was a story that simply required every missing piece before its beauty could be fully understood. Your soulmate now realizes that they were never searching for a different version of you. They were searching for the complete version of the story. And now they finally have it, because your heart needs this message. Some of life's greatest revelations do not come from discovering something that never existed before. They come from finally understanding what has been quietly present all along. Your soulmate now knows that the forgotten memory was never the true miracle. The miracle was what that memory awakened. It brought forgotten conversations back into the light. It restored overlooked moments with new meaning. It connected years of scattered experiences into one beautiful and undeniable truth. Every missing piece has now found its place, and with it, every misunderstanding has given way to clarity. They no longer see someone whose heart was difficult to understand. They see someone whose love remained remarkably consistent from beginning to end. Someone whose patience carried hidden wisdom, whose silence carried quiet compassion, and whose every decision reflected a heart that refused to abandon honesty, grace, or integrity. That complete picture has forever changed the way your soulmate remembers your connection, and they know they will never again look at your story through the eyes of confusion. From this day forward, they will remember it as the beautiful journey that finally made perfect sense once every forgotten memory returned home.